There are a number of clinical trials currently underway that are studying potential treatments for mesothelioma. Clinical trials are research studies that test new medical approaches and help advance the field by providing doctors with important new information. Patients have the opportunity to access the latest treatments and technologies through clinical trials. Some key trials that mesothelioma patients may consider participating in include: one major area of research is testing immunotherapy approaches for mesothelioma. Immunotherapy aims to help the body's own immune system better identify and attack cancer cells. Some immunotherapy clinical trials are testing checkpoint inhibitors, which are drugs that help take the brakes off T cells in the immune system, allowing them to better recognize and kill cancer cells. Checkpoint inhibitor drugs like nivolumab and pembrolizumab are being studied both alone and in combination with other therapies for mesothelioma. Early results suggest some patients may experience long-lasting responses to checkpoint inhibitors. CAR T-cell therapy is another type of immunotherapy being studied in clinical trials. It involves collecting a patient's own T cells and engineering them in the lab to target the mesothelioma before putting the cells back into the patient's body to trigger an immune response. Researchers hope to determine if CAR T-cell therapy can be effective against mesothelioma. Another major approach is targeted therapy clinical trials. Targeted therapies are drugs that specifically attack cancer by interrupting some of the signals that allow cancer to grow and spread. Drugs targeting the VEGF pathway, which mesothelioma relies on for growth of blood vessels, are among those in clinical trials. Bevacizumab, a VEGF inhibitor, is being combined with chemotherapy in clinical trials. Tyrosine kinase inhibitors that target pathways like EGFR and c-MET are also being explored. These targeted therapy studies aim to determine if specially inhibiting cancer growth signals can improve outcomes when added to standard care. Chemotherapy remains an important standard treatment option, and clinical trials are experimenting with new chemotherapy regimens and drug combinations. Drugs and trials include pemetrexed with either cisplatin or carboplatin, gemcitabine combined with pemetrexed or cisplatin, as well as 3 or 4 drug chemotherapy cocktails. By testing multi-drug approaches and different sequencing of therapies, researchers hope to optimize chemotherapy treatment for mesothelioma patients. Gene therapy is another promising area of study that could yield major advances. A clinical trial is investigating using an engineered common cold virus to infect and destroy mesothelioma tumors. The virus is modified to selectively target cancer cells. Researchers hope this targeted virotherapy approach will be safe and effective at wiping out cancer. Another gene therapy clinical trial is inserting genes into a patient's own immune cells to endow them with the ability to fight mesothelioma. In addition to investigating new therapeutic agents, clinical trials are optimizing surgical approaches for mesothelioma. Extrapleural pneumonectomy, a complex surgery to remove part of the lung along with the lining of the lung cavity, is being studied in specific patient groups. Researchers are determining who can benefit most from this aggressive surgery. Other trials are testing less invasive surgical techniques followed by other treatments. By refining surgical standards, doctors may be able to safely treat more patients with curative intent. Clinical trials are also occurring in earlier stage and even pre-cancer settings to test approaches for preventing or delaying mesothelioma's onset. People exposed to asbestos are able to enroll in screening and surveillance trials to aid early detection before symptoms arise. Other screening trial participants sometimes receive preventative therapies with the goal of stopping precancerous changes or initially microscopic disease from advancing. Researchers hope early intervention studies can make a difference for high-risk groups' long-term outcomes. This covers just some of the major areas of ongoing clinical trial research that mesothelioma patients have access to. Participating in trials allows individuals to contribute to advancing treatment while having the opportunity to access investigational therapies not otherwise available. Discussing clinical trial options with an asbestos cancer specialist is advised for patients interested in learning more about experimental strategies that may benefit their care and accelerate our understanding of this aggressive cancer.